Hello, my name is Dr. Svari, and I'm going to be teaching this class this semester in behavioral neuroscience. I've been teaching it for a number of years, and I guess one of my principal objectives is to make sure that I transmit to you the enthusiasm that I've had for a long time in teaching this topic. And in this lecture, this first lecture, there's a number of things that I want to accomplish, and I guess more than anything, just lay the groundwork really for your success in this class, and making sure that everyone is up to speed in terms of what's required and generally what's expected. Now, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is also in the syllabus, which is something that you need to read and read very carefully. And I'll be referring to it certainly a number of times over the course of this lecture. But let's get started by just emphasizing a few points. First of all, clearly in this time that we're in right now, these are very tough times. They're tough times for you. They're tough times for your family. They're tough times for me. Higher education is undergoing an enormous amount of stress. And part of that stress, of course, is the fact that we can't ordinarily meet as we're used to in face-to-face classes. So I think more than anything, I'd like to say that this is a time at which everybody's going to try to do the best that they can. You're going to try to do the best that you can. I'm going to try to do the best that I can. But let's recognize, that this is not a perfect situation. And again, we're going to all try to make the best of it. The second thing is that you need to recognize, what kind of a course this really is. This is called a synchronous remote class. And I like to think of it as a flipped classroom. You're going to be watching my videotape lectures, and then we're going to be meeting for some Zoom sessions. You need to be present at those Zoom discussion sessions. There's going to be quizzes as well as exams, and that all is going to be in real time. So that's like attending a regular class. And again, you're expected to be there, but what we'll be doing is we'll be examining maybe in a little bit more depth, some of the things that are mentioned in lectures. Mainly, it's an opportunity for you to contribute. It's an opportunity for you to contribute your thoughts. I'm there really to kind of moderate things. So you need to come to each one of those Zoom sessions prepared. Again, making a commitment to doing that, I think, is really important for your success in this class. So again, synchronous remote class. Again, a lot of stuff you're going to be doing outside of class, but we will be having in real time those Zoom discussion sessions in which you'll be expected to be, up to speed with your reading and up to speed with watching videotaped lectures as well as other archived videotapes that I will have for you, and to be prepared. And I think that if you are prepared, then those sessions will go well. If you're not prepared, then those sessions might struggle a little bit. So again, it's going to be your opportunity really to show that you've mastered the material and that you've done critical thinking about that material prior to the time of those classes. So you need to make sure, or absolutely sure, that you have a good, stable internet connection. I mean, that is so critical to this kind of remote situation. And again, that's something that you really need to pay attention to. Again, having success in this class is going to be heavily dependent upon that. I think in some ways, this is a lot more work for students. In many ways, it's a lot more work for me as well. I absolutely love to come in and give my lectures in class and face to face. But again, we can't do that right now. So again, we have to try to invent some ways to accomplish the same kind of purpose. And that's going to require, I think, more work on your part. And I think that you need to be prepared to do that. So again, that's just some important points about this class that I think that you need to reflect on and need to make sure that you're prepared for. So an important requirement for this class in behavioral neuroscience is clearly that you have taken Psychology 101. If you have not taken Psychology 101, then you should not be in this class. And also, I want to emphasize, because I have a few students every year who think that they can do this, but you can't. And that is, you can't take this class simultaneous with taking Psychology 101. Okay. So again, if you haven't taken Psychology 101 already, and again, I'm going to be assuming that you have knowledge in the basic areas and findings of psychology. You simply cannot take this class. And again, you cannot be taking behavioral neuroscience and Psychology 101 simultaneously. So again, please keep in mind that that's an important requirement. Let me tell you a little bit about me so that you get to know me a little bit better. I've been teaching at the university for a number of years, but I also spend a considerable amount of my time in Asia, involved with bringing the discipline of behavioral neuroscience to Asia. As a matter of fact, this goes back to 2006. This was a class in behavioral neuroscience that I taught at Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok, which is considered to be their best university. And in the Thai higher education system, there was no such thing as a course in the biological basis of behavioral neuroscience. So part of my involvement with that country is then to help them to establish a curriculum in this field that has become so important in the field of psychology. And I've been very fortunate to be supported by the Fulbright Exchange Program in doing this. So this was my last class, my first class in 2006. A number of these students have gone on and done especially well. This individual right here was one of my best students, and he went on and ultimately got his doctoral degree in neuroscience at Northwestern University. Then did postdoctoral work at actually two different postdoctoral stays, one in Singapore and then another one here in the United States at the National Institute of Health. And now he has a position over in New Zealand at the University of Otago. So I've had a number of students who I've taught at the undergraduate level who've gone on and done great things. And this was a class that I taught in 2019. This was my most recent class. Again, I've gone back every single year and have taught this class usually in the month of August. And I take a great deal of enjoyment and pride in doing that because the students have done so well, and the curriculum there is getting better and better. And indeed, there are a number of other universities and colleges in Thailand that are now also teaching the discipline of behavioral neuroscience. So I'm very proud of that. We're really just going to be scratching the surface in our studies in behavioral neuroscience. And, think about it for a few moments. The online lectures and viewing of archived and curated videos that you're going to be taking a look at. That comprises about 42 hours of your time. So that's really less than 2 days on the topic of behavioral neuroscience. That's not a lot of time, okay, spent on this topic. So in view of that, there's a great deal, of course, that you're going to need to do outside of class. I like to say it's important for you to follow the 1 to 3 rule. For every 1 hour of our distance class, meaning the lectures and videos, you should be spending 3 hours outside of class studying. I think that is as a minimum. So again, like I was saying before, you have a tremendous responsibility. Part of that responsibility is to do the required studying outside of class, spend that important time in your preparation. And again, that's something that I think some students, that are struggling. Oftentimes I ask them, well, how much time are you spending, studying psychology every week, independent of lectures and so on. And oftentimes they say, oh, maybe an hour or 2 a week. It's simply not enough. That's a recipe for disaster. So again, you need to be putting in the requisite amount of time in order to do well in this class. One thing that I encourage students to do, and it may be a little bit more difficult in the context of a remote class, but I think there are ways of doing it, is to find yourself a study buddy. You can exchange, obviously, information by way of email and cell numbers and so on, and you should try to get to know some of the people that are in not only this class but your other classes. I would encourage you to do the same thing. That study buddy is a person that potentially is going to be very helpful to you in terms of our discussions that we have and the online lectures and videos and so on. So I think that that's a good idea, and that you should spend some time doing that. What do you need for the course? Well, I've got some really good news for you. You don't have to spend a nickel, okay, on the required reading. The 10th edition of CALIT, the biological psychology, that's in PDF form, and it's on Blackboard. It's available to you free. Okay, so again, look for that on Blackboard. Also, a small book that I wrote. It's called How the Science of Psychology Gets Done. PDF of that also is available to you free on Blackboard. So those are, required that you read those over the course of this semester. And again, I want to emphasize, you've got to have a good, reliable, high-speed internet connection. Again, those are the 2 required textbooks, and again, both are available for free on the Blackboard website for this class. Now, grades. Everybody's always, of course, interested in grades, and again, there's material that's in the syllabus about this, but I want to make sure that everybody understands it. There's going to be a total of 4 exams in this class, and again, the exams are going to be delivered during one of our sessions, during the class when it ordinarily meets. This class ordinarily meets in the afternoons on Mondays and Wednesdays. What is it, 1:10 I think to 2:25, something like that. And on days in which we have exams, and there's 4 exams, you have to take it during that time period. Okay, and that means logging on the Blackboard and taking the exam. Each one of those exams is going to have 60 multiple choice and true-false questions, and each one is worth 5 points. So each exam is worth 300 points, and again, 4 exams, but your lowest exam score is going to be dropped. One of the things that I find is sometimes students get off to a rough start, and oftentimes what happens is they end up using that first exam as their dropped exam. So again, this is a way to, I guess, to adjust and perhaps to double your efforts on the future exams. Again, 4 exams, each one is the same. None of them are cumulative exams. That is, they only cover each quarter of the class. And again, your lowest exam score is going to be dropped when I make when I make my computations regarding your grade. So again, there's going to be a total of 10 quizzes during the course. Each quiz is worth 30 points for a total of 300 points. And again, those are quizzes that are going to be posted on Blackboard, and you'll be expected to take them during the time that our class meets. They're going to be short answer essays that you'll be writing. So in total then, it's possible for you to accumulate 1,200 points in the class. And once again, your lowest exam score is dropped. So when you take a look at this distribution that I have here, this is really computed over many semesters of teaching this class. 1080 to 1200, that's A minus to A, 960 to 1079, that's B minus to B plus. 840 to 959, that's C minus to C plus. 720 to 839, that's D minus to D plus. And less than 719 is a failure in the class. Now, I don't know what it's going to look like this semester. This is the average over many semesters. It'll probably be somewhere around here. What I have here, but the scores might be lower. They could be higher, but this is generally what it looks like. So again, on Blackboard, you will be able to see how you perform on each exam, and you'll be able to see, where you're at, relative to other students in the class, and those important determinations in terms of the distribution of grades. Typically what I do is I look at the person who's the top performer in class. That determines what 100% is, and then everybody else's score is computed with respect to that top person in the class. It's a system that I think is very fair. It's a modified curve, and it's one that has, I think, worked well for me in the past. Students have typically done fairly well in this class in the past. I've had some wonderful students who have gone on and done very well in graduate school and medical school. I think that the class is in many respects designed, for students who are serious students to have success. You have to use your time efficiently. There's so many distractions involved now with everything that we do in life. But certainly there are a wide number of distractions that occur while you're studying, and some of the most important distractions are the ones that I have listed here. I don't get involved in any of these things. That's just me. I find them to consume just way too much of my time. I see the value of these ways of communicating and socializing with other individuals. Social media is not unimportant, but I think that we've gotten to the point where they're overused. So I think that there's a lot of research out there now in very reputable scientific journals showing that overuse of social media is linked to a lot of negative things: lower grades, poor health, symptoms of potential mental health problems. I'm not making this up. This is the reality of the world that we live in today. So I want to encourage you then to reflect a little bit about these distractions and try to curtail them as much as you can so that you can position yourself to have success in this class. Let me talk a little bit about, how I view my job. A job as a professor in higher education. And I think it's important for me to talk about this because I think that, we as professors come into teaching, whether it's undergraduate or graduate students, in a way that's very different from how students come into it. So I want to talk about this a little bit. I really view my job as one in which I'm leading you to knowledge. Let's call it the fountain of knowledge. And some of you are going to just barely taste that. Others of you are going to drink from that fountain a lot, and others of you are going to just really consume from that fountain of knowledge. And there will be some who won't do it at all. And I recognize that as a possibility in any class. But I really see that as my job. And it's not I pitch and you catch. I pitch this information to you and you catch it. Okay, that's not what this class is about. It's not the filling up of a pail. I liken my job to that of trying to light fires. Trying to get people, interested in the discipline of behavioral neuroscience. That's really how I view my job in higher education. So again, understanding this difference between higher education and high school, for example, I think is critical. I'm your professor, I'm not your teacher. Teachers in high school settings they have a very different function. They're paid, and indeed they're evaluated on how they prepare students to take tests and whether or not those students are successful in taking tests. I am not paid to make you learn. That's not my job. That's what they do in high school. So again, I go back to that previous slide in which I said that I'm about lighting fires. That's really what I consider to be my job. So you see the university, then students see the university as a place to get a credential, and then ultimately to go on and once you get your degree, having success in a particular job. Professor really sees things differently. I see it differently. It's a place for you to expand your horizons, to make your world richer, to get an education. And indeed, that's a very different goal from what a student may view a college education, where they see it as a credential. So there's a clash there, and it's important to recognize that professors really view this as an opportunity for them to expand the thinking, in particular the critical thinking of students. So again, making the world, their world richer, and making them stronger as a result of that. So when you take a look then at how a typical professor, I think, views their job in higher education, it's not to make you learn. That's really your job. Indeed, when you take a look at our classes that we have, there will be discussions for sure, but absolutely no test preparation. That's your responsibility. That's your job. That's not my job. So more than anything, I tell students that if they want to have success, not just in this class, but in other classes, you need to develop critical listening skills. When you're watching those lectures, when you're watching those archive videos, you need to really get engaged in thinking critically about what you're hearing, and be prepared in our Zoom discussion sections to ask questions and indeed to become engaged in the material by probing, by asking questions, by developing your own ideas. That's really what I view our principal job to be. So establishing those critical listening skills. I mean, when you're watching one of these videos and we're covering material just like you would in class, you need to be focused. You need to be paying attention, to what a professor is saying, whether they're saying it in a videotape like this or whether you're in a face-to-face situation. Those critical listening skills are absolutely crucial. And again, there's so many distractions, cell phones and, opening up 10 different windows on your laptop while you're watching, listening to a lecture. There's just incredible number of distractions that are going on. So again, it's not passive absorption like watching television is. It's the development of critical listening, right? So critical listening, in critical listening, you're evaluating things as it's being said. As I'm talking right now, okay, you should be, thinking about, what it is that I'm trying to convey to you. And you should be thinking about when we get to the subject matter of behavioral neuroscience, or trying to unify certain things that we're talking about. This is, I think, it's one of my favorite Peanuts cartoons. And you have Lucy saying, "So what do you think?" And Linus says, "Well, what difference does it make? You never listened anyway." And Lucy says, "Well, I was just making conversation." And then Linus says, "When you make conversation, you have to listen too." And Lucy says, "You do?" How many times, I can't tell you how many times I've encountered individuals who are they're horrible listeners. They're there simply to tell you about them, and they don't really care about you. They don't really care about things that you say. That's not as what's supposed to be happening in terms of exchanges that take place in a college course. It's not about just me talking about material. It's about you forming ideas. It's about you getting engaged in discussion. And I think that that's when things really work well. So if you're have not already developed critical listening skills, if you have not already been able to focus on, over the course of a lecture, for example, you need to develop that. And you're going to have success to the extent that you do develop it. So again, you need to be evaluating things all the time. And that's a crucial aspect of what goes on in higher education. So you can be a serious student. And of course, in the syllabus, there's a whole list there of things about what it means to be a serious student. And again, I really want you to read that. But if you do make the choice to be a serious student, you can do very well in this class without question. So you need to be keeping up with things, reading the text, going over the tape lectures. There's what I call thought questions that we're going to be looking at over the course of our Zoom sessions. And you need to think about those things, and you need to be prepared to discuss them. There's a lot of archive videos also that are from YouTube and from a number of other sources that I want you to watch, as preparation for the things that we're studying and as preparation for those Zoom discussion sessions. So indeed, that's what it means to be a serious student. You need to take good notes on the things that you view online, for example, whether it's one of my lectures or one of the archived lectures, or maybe during our Zoom discussion sessions, take notes, be actively engaged. And again, you need to devote significant time each day to accomplish all of this. Cramming doesn't work in this class. If you're cramming, that is several days before an exam, um, and you haven't really kept up with the material, then again, that's a recipe for disaster. So I want to also talk about a fear. Now, this is a fear that Albert Einstein had, and the fear has to do with technology. And just take a look at this series of pictures that I have. This is what a day at the beach looks like. You know, individuals, young people, totally consumed by their cell phones. This is what being at a sporting event looks like, you know, cheering on your team. Again, people very focused on their cell phones. This is what having dinner out with your friends looks like. Not a lot of interaction going on there, but a lot of cell phone usage going on. This is what it looks like to be on a date with another individual. Again, fixated on their cell phones. This is what having a conversation with your best friend looks like. Again, not a lot of conversing going on there. And this is what a day at a museum looks like. Again, total fixation on cell phones. This is what enjoying the sights looks like. Again, take a look at this. You know, they're on their cell phones. So this is what Albert Einstein said. He said, "I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots." You know, I really think that that's here. Nobody recognizes the importance of technology more than I do. You know, if this pandemic that we're in happened 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you know, before the wonderful technology that we have, we wouldn't even be having a class right now. You know, that technology has enabled us to do this. But at the same time, it's overused. And it's especially overused with the obsession, indeed the addiction that many people have with their cell phones, where they simply can't put them down even for 15 or 20 minutes. You know, I think that you need to heed that warning. One of the things that I've found in classes, especially over the last 10 or 15 years, is this obsession with technology really works against a lot of students who are very susceptible to it, to the point where it interferes very significantly with their studying. So, you know, try to back off, try to curtail it. You know, you really need to be focusing more of your attention on studying. That's what you're in college for. Again, just please take that as an observation, but also as one that carries with it a significant amount of weight, I think, in terms of where we're at right now, in terms of how technology has become, in many cases, an interference with human interaction and an interference with learning and with education. So the single most important thing you can do to have success in this class, well, to me, it's really simple. It's about reading the syllabus, not just once, not just twice, but a number of times. And over the course of a semester, I always get emails from students asking certain questions. And for the most part, I would say at least 9 times out of 10, had the student read the syllabus, they would have not sent me an email requesting information. So the syllabus is a contract. The expectations are clearly spelled out in the syllabus, and you know exactly what you must do to do well in this class. Again, it's very clear what you need to do. There's also no such thing as extra credit, no such thing as do-overs. That's what's done in middle school and high school. That's part of that culture. It's not a part of higher education. So negotiating a grade, after the completion of a course or even before the completion of a course, um, please don't even ask. Okay, because that's not a part of higher education. We don't do do-overs. Again, you have upfront everything that you need to be able to have success in this class. You know exactly how you're being measured. You know what your responsibilities are. So again, no such thing as extra credit, no such thing as do-overs. Okay, again, that's not a part of higher education culture. So understand what this acronym means, ITS, right? What it means is in the syllabus, okay? So if you send an email to me and I write ITS, that will mean that you really need to read the syllabus thoroughly. Starting with our next lecture, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of the field of behavioral neuroscience. And again, I look forward to having you in this class this semester. And again, we're confronting some huge challenges, but you're going to work through it, and I'm going to work through it, and we're going to try to do the best that we can. So again, in our next lecture, we'll be talking about, psychology, what it really is. We're going to talk about different viewpoints in psychology. We're going to talk about history. So again, that will be present in our next lecture.